Civil society, the private industry masquerading as institution, sitting between government and industry, and its position is founded on the greatest contradiction.
In fact, neuroscientists are saying that newly born children recognize the pluralism of other children being next to them in a cot, even if they can't see the child. Mm-hmm. So the individual, the human individual, has extraordinary means of sensing somebody who is from a different society.
Our tolerance and acceptance results from the notion that there is no difference amongst people, and that differences are merely socially constructed.
Pluralism is a subject that is taught. It's not instinctive in human society.
If this is true, then it is safe to assume that there is a tolerance curve threshold, and if so, our threshold is being continuously pushed by NGOs. Might it be to challenge our identity and convictions?
Reaching out, I think especially of the Amman Declaration that you were part of,
right,
and of the message that was delivered called A Common Word between us and you from so many Muslim leaders to Christian leaders.
How ironic is it that an attempt at theological unity stems from the concept of commonality, considering the same approach of oneness was used by Muhammad when he positioned the notion of Abrahamic faiths, eliminating any doubt in him as a prophet.
Jewish, Christian, and Muslim societies all are founded on theological principles that stress the oneness of God.
We just listened to the greatest contradiction of all time, and it is this idea of pluralism that has been used to defraud and disadvantage the West, rooted in the Christian principle of oneness.
Each of us and all of us, born of a single soul.
And the greatest concern is that the universal single soul within the Abrahamic faiths may consolidate the Judeo-Christian tradition to Islam.
What would happen, and I'm sorry to come back to this, but it's important, if a Muslim army went into Northern Ireland and replaced one Christian interpretation by another? Imagine the fallout that would cause in the Christian world itself.
Syria, the root of the immigration crisis, and North Africans invading, a geographic area which the Aga Khan has great influence and control over.
Islam expanded out of Arabia. One of its first areas of interfacing with non-Muslim societies was in Syria, and it was the first contact between the Muslim world and an established Judeo-Christian society. It was the East Roman Empire or the Byzantine Empire. So historically, Syria was one of the very earliest situations in which Islam came into contact with non-Islamic established societies. So it's one of our earliest case studies. Historically, Syria was one of the very earliest situations in which Islam came into contact with non-Islamic established societies. So it's one of our earliest case studies.
Syria. Is it even safe for Christians to live there? How did the theological partnership turn out?
Always easier to unite followers in a negative cause than a positive one, but the consequences can be a perilous polarization.
The illustrious words of the Aga Khan. If you don't know the issues or the forces at play, the ability to predict is seriously constrained.
The invasion of Iraq was something which has mobilized what we call the Ummah, that is, the community of Muslims around the world. Every Muslim that I have ever talked to has felt engaged by this.
In my view, the deeper problem behind any prospective clash of civilizations is a profound clash of ignorances. And in that struggle, education will be an indispensable weapon.
The art of war and conquest has 3 stages. First is to infiltrate, second is to invade, and the final stage is conquer. An example of infiltration is affirmative action.
Sometimes problems or the need to create change will take 15 or 20 years.
Invasion can be seen in Europe's migrant crisis.
The developing world of Asia, Africa, the Middle East. Germany is generous towards the developing world. It analyzes the problems and seeks solutions very much in the same direction as we are ourselves. They're covering more and more fields, including culture. So that's where we're working together. And through Germany, we're also working with the European Union.
And last but not least, conquest. Release the barbarians.
Where you were warning the West that it had to do a better job in trying to understand Islam.
As you know, I was born into a Muslim family, linked by heredity to the Prophet Muhammad.
Established by the Aga Khan to realize, quote, the social conscience of Islam through institutional action, unquote.
Fully 37 countries have been writing or rewriting their constitutions in the last 10 years, with another 12 countries recently embarking on this path. This means that nearly 25% of the member countries of the United Nations have been rethinking these central governance concerns. And nearly 49 of these countries have majority Muslim populations. And the new world order that it promised. I think the conclusion is that the success of democratic societies will depend in the end on more than democratic governments. The scale and the quality of civil society will become a factor, I believe, of enormous importance.
Like, share, and subscribe. Click that notification button and check us out on social media. Links are in the description below.